There's one training I do. I love this training. It's fun. I make it fun. It's 30 minutes, period. Because who wants to be in an HR training? I don't even want to be in an HR training, right? But the do's and don'ts of interviewing, when you're in the interview, what can you ask and not ask, right? Because a lot of people think, oh, I can't get sued. They're not my employee. That's a misconception. And there's always, I mean, I've been asked. The funniest, I got to tell you this one, because this is the best. And I always talk about this
okay.
You got to know what question you want to ask, right? So I sent, this was early on when I had like just decided to open my business, and I saw a HR director position open on Automotive News. I was like, oh, and it was in an area, I won't say where, but it was in an area that I was like, you know what? I could totally live there. I sent my resume. 10 minutes later, I get a phone call from the dealer. You're exactly what we need, blah, blah, because I am, right? I've been doing this for 20 years. I understand this industry. And he says, let me ask you something. Are you married and do you have kids? These were his first two questions. And I laughed, being me, I laughed and I answered his real question. And I said, I can relocate. Because that's what he wanted to know, right? Like that's what he was worried about. Is if I had a husband that was holding me back, and would it be okay for, with a child?
Why do you think somebody doesn't just ask the direct question, like, can you relocate? Like, it doesn't seem like an unsafe question.
He wouldn't have asked that to a man. Have you ever thought about that with a man? Never.
No. Sure I have, because I've hired people from out of the area, whether they need to relocate or whether they need to commute quite a bit. And I've had it fizzle. So no, either that one to me, I wouldn't think of. I understand in your world, you can take a lot more aggregate info and you see it more with guys. It sounds like, I'm sorry, you see that concern more with female, but that wouldn't even, nah.
No, the assumption, it's just about a bias. Right. And, with those kinds of things, you just have to allow the candidate to make their own decisions, right, about this and ask the question that you really are worried about, and which is, that's what I mean. You got to know the question that you're trying to get to and understand what you can't ask, So, and that's an important thing, I think.
I hate the way the world is now.
You do?
I wish people weren't as sensitive. I wish they had more of a sense of humor. And I wish that there could be just a frank, direct discussion, authentic, about what you're really worried about. I mean, like, I would like to be able to say to someone, Sandy, you're exactly what I want. You're a single mom. You move here. It's the job you want. You're excited about the prospect of changing your life around.
Can you move here is a great question.
Hang on. But you've got a support system back home. You've got a sister and a mother. Your mom lives up the street. Your sister lives across town. And when you work late there, you've got all kinds of support. When you come here, you're going to be alone. I want you to think about, when we get past the excitement and the adrenaline of just that the validation of that you're wanted and the excitement of the change, can we play out, I know you heard this, can we play out the tape a little?
Are you going to ask those same questions to a single dad?
Yes.
That's
well, first of all, I'm not going to ask any of them if I shouldn't ask them. I'm just saying, I wish the world could be that we're just being direct and saying what we mean, and it's not dangerous.
I think that there's something that I have often said to managers when they say to me, what the hell? Can't I ask anything? Like, I want, there's certain things that What can I ask and what can I not ask? And I've got genuine concerns, right? And I guess the thing that I always say is that, you know what, we have all of these laws, right? Because they seem really restrictive they seem like they could be restrictive, right? When you're interviewing somebody. But these laws they're all reactive, right? Every single employment law we have is in place because of bad actors, because somebody really did discriminate. So that doesn't mean that every single person who has a concern like you just talked about, right? That is like you're hiring somebody, you want to make sure that if they are relocating, that they have the support that they need, that maybe they're leaving behind, and you want them to think about that. That is not making that's different. Having a conversation like that, and maybe even helping that employee, that candidate who you want to hire because you think that they have the necessary skills and abilities for that role, right? That's a different conversation, especially when because I would imagine you, Jeff, would also say, and let's see what we can do to help you find those resources, right? Like, you might ask about community involvement that they might want to be in and give them.
Well, if I want someone, I'm certainly going to try to problem solve with them. But I also am I'm an armchair psychologist, right? Self-appointed. So I like to paint a real picture. I mean, like when I would interview salespeople, I would ask them directly, how long will you stay if you hate the job? We talked about turnover, that there's a lot in the industry, and I agree. And I think that part of that is pay driven. I think part of that is involvement. I think part of that is just your manager. A lot of us quit our manager, not the job, all of that stuff. And look, I've had low ESI. I've had low employee satisfaction scores, which shocked me, which, taught me a lot about being a manager, because I had my staff making more than they ever made in their life, working with me. And they're in the same store they were always at, and now I'm the new boss, and now they're making money. It's like the place is like a winning casino, and I'm thinking, who would I not be their favorite person? But it was like a low management score, but they're not leaving. So it was almost like they were making too much to leave, even though they weren't thrilled environmentally.
Engaged.
Exactly. So, I learned a lot about that, but part of the reason for the turnover in the industry is in sales and frankly, the car business doesn't have the market cornered on turnover on sales. You bring on life insurance agents, you bring on telemarketing people, there's heavy turnover in a lot of that. And that's just because it ain't easy. It just ain't easy. But when I'm interviewing someone, I'll say, how long, a standard question is, how long will you stay if you hate it? And they're like, well, what kind of question is that? And my answer would be, is if you can't give me a year and you hate it for 11 months, I'm not interested. Because there's so many growth steps and so many metamorphoses and so many coming out of the cocoon and being a new whatever over and over and over again in one whole year of selling cars.
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.